Let me tell you something. If you're not a footballer, an athlete of any sort, an entertainer, or a child prodigy, you're probably struggling through life. And I believe that I have a message that is going to help you carry yourself forward so that you can overcome the struggles that dwell within your mind. I have these struggles all the time. And at this point, they've honestly become an obsession. Because my life is not great. My life is not fantastic. My life is very difficult. My life is very hard. Part of it is during circumstances. Another part of it is just because that's the way that life is meant to be. Especially when you're starting with nothing. A lot of people's lives may seem easy, trust me. And that is because people within their past ancestry have put in the steps in play for them to enjoy life today. And I can say that for all of humanity, all of us, the reason why things are so calm and so peaceful in most parts of the world at this moment is because of past chaos and turmoil that was resolved. And so, with today's message, we are gonna see how we can learn from that past turmoil and chaos and use it to succeed in today's environment. Because what's happening in today's world to a lot of men, I would say women too, children just as much, but they don't feel the effects. But to us who are fully conscious, life seems to be a struggle. And the only reason it's a struggle is because you do not have one thing. And this is the one thing that they'll tell you is the root of all evil and this and that and this and that. But I'm here as an older person to come and tell you my experiences after 26 years of living. Being an adult since 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So 8 years of being an adult. I can come to you with some form of experience. And I will tell you that the one thing that they tell you is not important is the most important thing. Especially if you're a man. Especially if you're a man, and that thing is money. It's cash, dinero. The most important thing. The most important thing in your life is money. Money is worth leaving your spouse. It's worth leaving your family. It's worth leaving your country. It's worth leaving your continent. Money is worth so much. And you must do whatever you can to find it. And that's what I'm here to tell you about. I'm here to tell you about the fact, not how to do it. I'm here to tell you about the fact that you need to do it. And if you're still young, if you're still in your teens, or you're just entering your adult phase, you've just gotten out of high school, this is a very important message for you so that you can understand and you can hear it right now from someone who has a little bit of experience in the real world. Because most of us are coming from false worlds, such as high school, and living under our parents. You can do that for the rest of your life if you choose to, which is what the majority of the population actually does, which is why they never seem like they're struggling. However, know that you'll be bound to whatever success your parents have. And when someone else goes out and gets more than what your parents have, ultimately, that person, that one individual, in one lifetime, will have ultimately acquired generational wealth that has outleapt whatever wealth your parents and your parents' parents and your parents' parents managed to generate. And that is the age and the generation in which we live in today. We live in an age and a generation where you can go literally from having nothing to being at the top of the table, to being at the top of the chart. So you start from here as a young boy, and then you end up here as the head honcho. You become king. But in between you becoming king, there's so many phases and so many steps that you're gonna have to go through. And I'm drawing something down so that I can illustrate this to you. What most people have been doing throughout human history is they've been passing it down, passing it down, passing it down, passing it down. And in that process of passing it down, it just depends really on the family and on the principles that that family has. However, in that process of passing it down, what you'll see is that usually wealth and finances are diluted, because as wealth is created, so is consumption. And when consumption is created and the wealth stops being created, what happens? All of a sudden, you're eating into what is ultimately meant to sustain you and propel your lineage and your family. However, most people find themselves in a state where the wealth is no more being generated, and therefore their lives ultimately become worse. So, what I've drawn here, right over here, I hope you guys can see what I've drawn here, is how most people acquire wealth, and it will start with the first man. He'll pass it on to his son. 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 And each of these lines represents generations. Generation. I just got lazy to keep drawing, but I'm sure from what you see here, that's what's meant to be all the way up here. So I'm sure you see how wealth is accumulated and generated. Now I'll go on to further establish this by elongating the lines. In the beginning, we always have a small line because the wealth that is accumulated is small. This is from the passing down process. This is not wealth creation in general, but this is when wealth is passed down. This is what happens. And you'll see maybe there's an increase. It gets bigger. It gets bigger. But somewhere along the line, one bastard son comes through and starts to fuck everything up. As always, isn't that what usually happens? People who have never been through hard times create hard times. That's what usually happens. One bastard son will come and create less than the others. And because of that, his next bastard son comes and creates very little. And the next bastard son comes and creates even half of that. And next thing, the next bastard son has nothing. And just like that, and just like that, and just like that, that's how generational wealth can be dissolved and diluted within a few generations. As you can see here, with the first man where we start, and slowly a little bit of wealth is increased from what he garnered, and the principles of success are running through that lineage and through that bloodline. From there on, the next one creates a tremendous amount of wealth. And from there, because he has succeeded so much, the next son has less of a onus to acquire wealth, and his big contribution to the family bloodline is diluted, and then it's diluted again with his son's son. Because now what has happened here at this stage is a very important stage where it peaked, is that once this son came in, the principles for wealth and creation were lost. And from there, they ended up consuming, and that's why this line is shorter. And from there, his son, what do you think he grows up to become? A consumer. Because life is not hard. They still have wealth, they're still rich, they're still well off. But the son becomes a consumer. He consumes, forgetting that there are other people that are going to come down the same path and the same DNA pool. And from there it gets smaller, and from there nothing And this is where the bastard son's bloodline ends. This is where his wealth creation stops. This is where he returns back to peasantry. Ultimately, what he has done is, or what they have done, is they've taken a peasant family from rich to broke. So they started off as peasants, they became rich, and they got broke again. And they might keep going through these cycles for the rest of human time. Who knows? However, on the other side of that, there are those who, and this is where you want to be. This is why you need to take a lot of risks in your life. On the other side of that, there are those who take the leap of faith. And a peasant becomes a king in one generation. One man accumulates what millions and millions of families have been doing for generation upon generation upon generation. And literally in his one lifetime, he manages to accumulate more than all of the amount of money that these families have been able to generate over the last 10, 20, 30 centuries. And that's about 3,000 years. 4,000 years. Crazy numbers when you actually think about it. Crazy fucking numbers. But this is how God works. This is how life works. This is a very rare thing that happens. But when it does happen, you will see it. You will see it. That's why you end up with people like Elon Musk. People who come from nowhere. Bill Gates was the richest man for so long. For so long. All my entire youth, Bill Gates was known as the richest man alive. And Elon Musk literally came within the space of, 2 years. During the time of the pandemic, during COVID, his net worth skyrocketed from like 30 billion to him becoming the richest man on the planet in one generation. In literally one generation. I don't know if his family was well off before that. I don't know what position his family was in. But I know that they were not generational wealth capable. They did not have generational wealth. It was created by Elon. And you can be the Elon of your family. And maybe sometime in the future, someone just like me will be making a video just like this, and they'll be saying your name, saying you can be whatever your name is of this generation. But the only way that happens is for you to be aware of these things, for you to see what happens, for you to be financially literate. And to be financially literate does not mean to be good with numbers. To be financially literate means to be good with yourself. Once you become good with yourself, the wealth is almost automatic. The wealth is almost second to none. But up until that moment, your generations, your families will spend time accumulating wealth that will only be lost by some bastard son or daughter that comes along the line later on. And we want to prevent this. And the way we prevent this is by building people who can overcome those generational curses and ultimately create generational wealth within one lifetime. Because what you need to understand about this is it's almost inevitable. This is the default. Because you need to understand one thing about life is that it's always easier to go down the easy path. But the easy path almost always leads to destruction and chaos and turmoil. And the difficult part is the one that has to resolve all of that chaos and destruction and turmoil so that it can rise to the top. And because it went and it resolved all of that chaos and turmoil, it managed to break past the point where all of these communities of people couldn't get past. But one man comes, sorts everything out, and he takes himself past wealth that has ever been generated. And you see someone coming up with a new high net worth. If it was in sports, you see someone scoring more goals than they've ever scored. You see people breaking records. And it's because they went and they resolved past chaos and past turmoil. They had information, they had knowledge, and more importantly, they took action. So when we are sitting here today as poor men, I don't want to say broke boys, we are poor men. We should all aspire to be poor men. You should aspire to be poor in your mentality. Because once you become rich, a lot of people find themselves overindulging. When you're poor, you're almost always in a state of desperation. And in that state of desperation, though it may lead some astray, usually, if you stay desperate for the right things, you'll eventually get there. Because you will find a way to make it happen. I come here to tell you this. As a young man who's 26 years old, 8 years of experience outside of high school. When your parents come to you and tell you, son, you should just enjoy your time. You're so young, you have so much time. Tell them, fuck you, bro. The most important thing, no matter what age you're at, is for you to make money. And as I said at the beginning of this video, if you're not an athlete, if you're not an entertainer, or you're not a child prodigy, you're probably struggling through life. And the reason why you're struggling through life is that your parents did not have any of these principles in place. And those athletes, those entertainers, and those child prodigies, their parents had everything in place. And that is the reason why those are the young millionaires today. Those are the people who started working when they were 8, 9, 10 years old. And now at 20, 21, 22, they're multi-millionaires. However, you do not get to see all of the work that they had to put in. And I know it was never an effort that they put in by themselves, because it's impossible for a child to put that effort. However, if your parents have a dream and they have a vision for you, that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to try to force you to fulfill that dream and that destiny that they have for you. And in you fulfilling and ultimately succeeding in that, you acquire generational wealth, you become a multi-millionaire. So now, what do we do as the rest of society for the people whose parents did not put us in a position to succeed from a young age? We have to adopt the principles that these people have put in. We have to learn from their children. Look at their lives, study their lives, look at them as examples. Look at a guy like Cristiano Ronaldo. When did he start playing football? How old was he when he started playing football? How long did it take for him to get signed and to become a professional? Was his success ever guaranteed from when he was a young man? No. It was never guaranteed. And therefore, on your wealth creation journey, you have to understand that it's never guaranteed. It only makes sense once you get to the end of the puzzle or the end of the maze. But all along the way, on this treacherous path, nothing seems to make sense. Nothing seems to make sense to the observer, and nothing seems to make sense to the person who's experiencing it. Because I, myself, am on the path. And I can tell you why I'm on the path. And if you can tick these down on your list, then you probably are on the same path as I am, which is I don't have a 9 to 5. No 9 to 5 job. I've left my hometown for a brighter start. I've left my country because I was coming from the third world. Now I'm in the first world. I've left any female companions in my past because, to be quite frank, they were a distraction and they came with a lot of chaos, which is what a lot of females have. And then I've abandoned all negative influences within my life. And when I say I've abandoned all negative influences, I'm not saying that I've chosen to not hear what they say. I've chosen to ignore what they say, and I keep hearing it, but I'm not responding to it. No, I don't hear it at all. I don't hear a peep each and every single day. I don't hear any negativity because I chose to remove the negative people from my life. There are certain negative people within my life that I will go back to establish connections with because they deserve that. I don't even want to say establish connections, but that I will revisit if they choose to want to establish connections. Then I'm always open to that. However, because I told you, family is not the most important thing for you as a young man. Your mom and your dad are not the most important thing for you as a young man. This is your life, Brody. This is your life, and if you cannot be selfish with your life, then God will not bless you. Because you need to understand, and I'm not coming as a religious man, but what is the one thing, when you ask yourself, what is the one thing that you will kill for? The one thing that you'll kill even your own mother or your father for. The one thing that you even kill your partner for. The one thing that you'd even sacrifice a baby for. It's your life. And therefore your life is God. And if you do not make the sacrifices for God, what do you think He's going to do to you? He's going to abandon you. And He's going to let you walk amongst all of these other godless people who do not understand how serious life is, who do not understand the battlefield and the arena that we are on, who do not understand the plush green pastures that we have been placed in, because it was not always like this. It hasn't always been like this. This is new. It hasn't always been like this. Maybe in another civilization, in another time, on another planet, it might have been like this. However, it has not always been like this. So you need to understand that if you choose to walk amongst the godless people, those who are not willing to sacrifice, those who are not willing to do whatever it takes, you will get the same results as them. And I don't care if it's your mom, it's your dad, it's your brother, it's your sister, it's your daughter, it's your son, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, your life was bestowed to you by God, and you have a duty to do what God requires. And what God requires is the evolution of each and every single individual. Therefore, becoming a collective evolution. However, if you choose not to make the sacrifices required, your evolution will be stunted. And ultimately, everyone else's evolution will be stunted too. And that is when society begins to decline. It's not a mistake. And the reason why I can tell you this with so much confidence is because I say once again, what's the one thing that you would kill for? That you would kill almost anything for? And that is your life. And therefore your life is your God. because it's the one thing that you treasure the most. You'll still be able to continue life without your parents if it called for it. It's not like if your parents got sick today and they died, you're gonna crawl up into a ball and stop living your life. Eventually, you will be forced to live it. And that's why I said to you, money is the most important thing that you must acquire. Once you have acquired the money, you can shift your focus. But if you're still a teen, if you're just coming out of high school, focus on making money and focus on making generational wealth, because that is what a lot of people have abandoned, because they choose to enjoy this moment right now. They go and they work their 9-to-5 job, they get paid a low salary, but they never move the needle the way that the needle is meant to be moved. And it's because they are godless people. They have no faith, they have no hope, they don't believe in anything. They're negative people. And that is why you must run away and stay away from them. They're honestly demons. And it's not that they are demons, they're just possessed by demons that have covered their eyes to the reality and truth of the world. And the reality and truth of the world is that in this life, we're all a collective. However, it is each man for himself, as long as you each occupy an individual body. And therefore, the individual must create something better than what was there before, because that is the natural arc of life. That is how evolution has been happening. Things seem to just get better and better. Whether you look in human evolution from a technological standpoint, or you just look at nature in general, things evolve. A tree one day that was smooth bark, smooth trunk, in a couple of generations could have thorns covering whole entire tree. And that is evolution. That is the part of evolution. That is what evolution does. And that's why you being broke is you working against that evolution. You're actually moving backwards. You're actually working into the devil's hand. That's why I told you, the most important thing for you as a young man is to make money. Once you get older and you've established yourself and you've created that wealth, and it's not about making money, not about getting a paycheck and working hard. No, you have to create something that is going to be generational, brother. You have to create something that is gonna take you from here to here in one lifetime. It's the only way. And you should teach these principles to the next people who come after you. Whether you leave them with money or not, they have to understand that they have to create something that will take them there. Because inflation is a real thing, man. Inflation is a real thing. Governments are a real thing. At any point in time, they can come and they can take your shit. They can kill you. They can wipe out your shit. They can take your stuff at any point in time. However, if you have the ability to create, you'll never be stuck. And if you look early on in the illustrations from what I was saying, is that somewhere along the line in this phase, one person creates so much that after that they stop creating, and slowly the family suffers. Therefore, your onus is to create. And if you create, get paid for it. Acquire your money. And do right by God. So that when you're gone, the ones who enter God can have a good time, an enjoyable time, and they can continue to